Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Three Steps Ahead podcast. This is a brand new business strategy podcast for 2026. Basically, Three Steps Ahead is all about simple business strategy that works. What we're looking to do is to help business leaders make the next move, share ideas, and really leverage on our collective experience. There are three of us, but if I start off by introducing Richard.
Hello, and
Absolutely.
I'm glad to be part of this.
Richard and I have worked together for well over 25 years. We were partners in Daffins, an accountancy firm based in Coventry in Warwickshire. We were kindred spirit looking to change the world 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's still looking to change the world. I think one of the themes that I'd like to come out of this podcast is the idea of continuous learning, because that's what excites me
Yep.
in terms of getting involved. Quick, where am I now? So I'm a director in Eddiston Miller. We provide value to clients by ensuring each of them has a clear strategic direction and also the means and capability to actually achieve their potential. We do that in terms of facilitating strategy, training and coaching of leadership groups, and also assisting with implementation.
Why Eddystone?
Eddystone is a link, basically the Eddystone Lighthouse. And so the idea is that you've got a rock that effectively is acting as a signal for navigation and guidance. There's also a family connection in the Miller family business always had a lighthouse for its logo. So it's a certain amount of following on from what's always been the case. I am based in the Southwest, but dealing with clients across the whole of the country. And the other thing I was going to say is that from a practical point of view, away from the advisory, I get my feet wet by acting as finance director for a national conservation charity.
Which is Rewilding Britain.
It is indeed.
It is indeed.
So I'd like to introduce you, colleague and friend Simon Cossey from the Yellow Growth Company. Simon and I work together in a peer-to-peer group, learning for owner-managed businesses. And also Simon was integral in terms of the business development work that was being done at Daffins. So Simon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. Yes, Yellow Growth Company indeed. What do I do? I'd probably best describe myself as a business development consultative selling agency. I'm out there trying to promote the brand, keep the brand front and center. Coupled with that, clearly we're looking to grow the number of clients that we have. So it's spreading the net far and wide. And finally, I'd like to introduce Martin Gibbs. I met Martin a good few years ago as part of Coventry in Warwickshire first. Like Martin, I'm based in the Midlands. Martin was managing partner at Daffins Accountants, retired, and has since moved on to be Footsteps Advisory. What does Martin do? Well, he's looking at facilitation around leadership, definitely mentoring, and he's absolutely the number one podcaster that I know.
Leadership facilitation, mentoring, and podcast.
Yeah. And general ball breaker.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Simon. Yeah. Part of what we've been talking about there in terms of our background, Simon and I love a virtual Venn diagram. So some of the things where we've overlapped, we've talked about Richard, Simon and I all having a history with Daffins Accountants. Simon, you mentioned Coventry and Warwickshire first. So the three of us have all been chairs of Coventry and Warwickshire first. Richard was the chair in 2005, me in, I think, 2014-15. And you're the current chair of Coventry and Warwickshire.
I am indeed the current chair. So it definitely shows our commitment to professional services across our region and growing that. So I hadn't thought of that one, but as we're all on suite,
and Coventry and Warwickshire first is the network to be in for professionals who count. A huge influence on the three of us. Myself for the last 20 years and probably Richard for the last 15 or so, and Simon maybe for the last 5. Is we are all accredited Mindshop expert facilitators. Mindshop is an Australian network of business advisors, most of whom are accountants, looking really to find a better, smarter way of doing things and leveraging strategic business advice. And through Mindshop, we all ran at various points the Daffins Business Leader Group. Richard, you started it off. When did you launch Business Leader Group, or its predecessor, which was Growth Academy?
It started off as the Growth Academy probably about 10 years ago. And the whole premise was to get owner-managed businesses together on a regular basis in a safe environment whereby they could actually learn. So we introduced them to new ideas. They could actually share what was working or not working within their business. But more importantly, to actually create some kind of structure for creating strategy, but also an accountability loop so they could share with fellow colleagues within the group and also with us as the people facilitating it as to the progress towards their goals. So that was the main driver behind Growth Academy.
Certainly over the last 12 months, since Simon and I have been running Growth Academy, we've been doing a podcast after each one, which have been great fun and have actually gone down exceptionally well, which is one of the drivers as to what we're looking to do, is to keep some of the momentum up from that, and bring together, getting the band back together. The three facilitators over the last decade from Business Leader Group, and here we are.
I think it's important to say, Martin, Mindshop is a global organisation. So my personal experience, I've met people from all around the world and engaged with people from all around the world. So the same issue you might have, it's a network of people that you can reach out to and they will give you an answer or point you in a direction, or give you an opinion that might be slightly contrarian. For me, it's brought some structure to some of the conversations that we've had. We get to the real nub of the issue a little bit quicker. From the Business Leader Group, the podcasts have been really good fun, really successful, and are clearly a way forward. 30 minutes in the car on the way home, you can't beat it.
Well, the statistics through Apple and Spotify over the next few months will hopefully back all that up. Gary Lineker's doing very well with podcasting, selling his soul to the world. So this time next year, we'll all be millionaires.
That's something to aspire to. There we go.
Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't. Moving on then. So, Richard, you've been in the charity sector and also in the advisory sector full time through 2025. What are your biggest strategy learning points coming out of last year?
I think probably my number one, and this is both in terms of advising clients, but also in terms of working within the charity, it's the real importance of shared values, common purpose and culture. But I think the last 12 months really reinforced to me that it goes beyond just a set of written values, that it's a question of how do we interact as people within an organisation? How do we get the best out of what we're trying to achieve with the resources available, by making sure those interactions are as effective as possible, and the role of the leader in actually doing that. So I think that's a real big learning point for me over the last 12 months, and that's one of the things I'm going to take forward into 2026.
Simon, what about you?
I'll stress for the listeners that this is completely unscripted. So it's interesting to hear. I haven't spoken to Richard about that at all. For me, leadership is followership. Tackle those soft issues. And the things that Richard just mentioned there are really often people see them as culture, shared values are perhaps soft things. They're things that you don't apply a monetary value to necessarily, but they are absolutely critical because they have an impact on the hard issues or the hard outcomes, which do have a monetary value. Now we live in a world where the EQ element of every interaction, get to know people better. Martin knows I love a stat.
57% of people love a stat, Simon.
80% of the leaders think that they are better than average. But I think that's one of the key questions for 2026. People talk about having authentic purpose, but well, what the hell does that really mean in practice? Really being a leader is being a bit more of a navigator these days. And I think, secondly, don't keep it to yourself. This is something that Martin and I spoke on the last podcast, is communication. So don't overcomplicate it.
I think you closed
too
off
many
last
words,
year, Simon, when we did our review of the Business Leader Group year. Your takeaway was communicate, and make sure you're good at it.
Absolutely. And also don't be scared to invite perhaps a bit of dissent in the ranks, that sort of that inbuilt kind of check and balance from people around you that will understand the business as well. It's not an authoritarian position. It's absolutely a full-on collaborative role.
Can I just come back on that? Because I want to agree with Simon in that often culture is about creating the right environment, and we may over the coming podcast talk about book recommendations and articles and stuff like that. There's one book by Dan Coyle called The Culture Code, and he says that as leaders we ought to create a culture of safety where people can actually challenge you, do feel that they can be vulnerable within an organization. And if you actually have that safety, then you're going to get a greater sense of belonging within the organization and the ability to interact with both your leaders and also your fellows within the organization. So I think that's really, really important.
From my perspective, 2025 was a weird year where I retired from my position at Daffins, and then I've had great fun the last 6 months working out what comes next. Looking back at the learning points that came out of Business Leader Group, some really simple stuff. You've got to have a plan, a now, where, how, strategic plan. Write it down. Share it with people. If you have a plan, even if you don't end up exactly where you want it to be, you'll have some reference point where you can actually work out where you are in relation to where you want it to be. I think when we were talking about the title of this podcast, 3 Steps Ahead, Richard, one of your initial thoughts was, well, what if people go on 3 steps ahead 2 steps back.
I think it's really valid. I'm a great believer in terms of frameworks within organizations that you must experiment with things and have the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. And the only way you're going to be doing that is if you try something out. If it doesn't work, learning from it.
Yep.
So as long as there may be some circumstances where you're 3 steps ahead and it might be 4 steps back. But I think the last thing we'd want to come out of this podcast is that these are ideas that you can just take and run with. You need to pick things that you think you can apply to your organization. Try them, and you can't guarantee success. But once you've tried it, say, why didn't it work within that actual organization? I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to agile frameworks within organizations. So I'm a professional Scrum master. The whole of Scrum as an agile framework is based upon experimentation. And the idea is that if you treat your organization and what you want to achieve as a bit of an experiment, have a plan, try it out. If it doesn't work, adapt.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get on and do it.
No. And we always used to say when we were running Business Leader Group before that 8 out of 10 is the new perfect, isn't it? There's no point in going for perfection. We've got limited resources. Let's just focus on sufficient to actually deliver value to our customer.
I think you could define true leaders as sort of natural trailblazers, pathfinders. You can't just be a leader of people in the business that's doing what the business has always done. You've got to be that kind of pathfinder. You've got to bring something to the table. For a manufacturing business and you're creating widgets, people might argue that all this is a bit of a tricky subject to talk about because there's a lot of process involved in that. But we're actually applying the same sort of engineering now that people might apply to CNC machines. And it's human engineering, it's relationship engineering, it's cultural engineering. If you haven't got the right tempo, the right temperament.
I thought we were heading down a Simon Cossey's 3 T's there. I was waiting for the next one, but it didn't come.
No, sorry, I hadn't thought of that. I told you it was unscripted. You've got to apply those sort of mechanical type approaches. My message I've written down here is just get softer. That's the long and short of it. But you've got to be meaningful with it. Not, I'm just doing it because I feel I should be doing it.
I really agree with you, Simon. A leader ought to be a role model. They are the person that effectively says, this is the way you should act, these are the values you should have. Again, it comes down to the idea of, if as a leader you can show vulnerability to say, yeah, it doesn't all go fine. Yes, we do make mistakes. What you're doing is you're actually telegraphing to the rest of the group that, it's okay, you can open up. This is an area of safety within. You've got to cultivate that sense of safety and vulnerability for people to open up, share mistakes, learn from them. So I really agree with you, Simon.
I'm a great sporting person. You follow me as well. People will know that I'm into my sport. There's many a book on sporting analogies, and it's just so true. What makes a champion, what makes an athlete grow, develop. It is attention to detail. It is being diligent and disciplined and having a very clear vision. And I don't think people should beat themselves up if they're in a leadership role. I suppose the word that they would use is, do they see themselves failing? I don't think it's failing. It's just we need perhaps within businesses now to recognise you need different leadership types and different leadership skills at certain points in the business. And it shouldn't be an issue if someone's given ownership and leadership of something. Doesn't necessarily mean that you should be the CEO or the managing director. It's really establishing a framework in which you can recognise I'm not the best person to do that. That person is the best person because they've got that right skill at the right time. Clearly, you have to have someone in charge. I get that, but you're going to see leadership changing across perhaps the senior management team at various points to get the best result or the best outcome that you possibly can.
Looking forward then to the rest of the year. So this is very early January when we're recording this, and we are planning 12 episodes this year. Roughly 1 a month. We may have a little break in the summer, but we will see. There's a core collective of the 3 of us, but we will be bringing in guests. And indeed, possibly the next episode may well have a guest. We're still working on that. We'll be looking at all sorts of things through 2026. Some of the big themes obviously is going to be AI, what the AI augmented leader looks like, the increasing importance of EQ as AI takes away a lot of the legwork. There's an awful lot of acronyms going on here. Who knows where we will go from there? But basically, this podcast is intended to bring together all sorts of good ideas that can help business leaders stay 1 step ahead with 3 steps ahead. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff. I better say something rather than just stick my finger up.
This is the thing. It's like snooker on the radio, isn't it? So yeah, a thumbs up doesn't really work. Okay. Can we go for an elegant dismount from Richard? What you're looking to get out of this?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to having a bit of fun, sharing ideas amongst ourselves, but also learning from others and how we're then going to take that away to implement to make change within our businesses.
And you,
Brilliant.
Simon?
Have some fun. Absolutely. This whole thing's got to be fun. That's what makes us turn up in the morning. But, to have these kind of conversations, get to the nub of the issues. And I'm always looking for that practical way to make it stick in a business. I think that's going to be key.
I agree with all of that. I was talking to somebody earlier today who was asking me what Footsteps Advisory is all about. And my simple answer was Footsteps Advisory is only going to be doing stuff that's fun. And this podcast is front and center. We're here to enjoy ourselves. We're here to communicate. We're here to share some great ideas. So with that, Richard, thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Simon.
And thank you, Simon.
Thank you, guys. I will see you all soon.